About. We have this as a space for people who are career transitioners getting into tech, trying to offer space for people to ask questions. So it's AMA style. And I'm working on just one screen today instead of typically I've got an extra one, but I'm going to post, we have a little Slido, or unless Brian, maybe I can just ask Brian to go ahead and post. Thank you. So that Slido is the best place for people to ask questions so that they can get upvoted and we can be focusing on the questions that most people are interested in hearing answers to. And then if there are some follow-up questions, we'll keep an eye on this Zoom chat. So if we're like actively in a conversation talking about something, the Zoom chat is the best place for that stuff. And yeah, afterwards, if anyone is still able or wants to keep talking, then we can invite a bunch of people to come off mute and have more of like a conversational style. So I think that's everything that I was going to say about JDHH. And I can just say that I am a software engineer. I work at Nordstrom Trunk Club. I myself went to a boot camp in 2017 and have been working as a full stack engineer since then. So I also went through that same process. Sam, do you want to say anything about yourself?
Yeah, I can give a quick intro. Hey everybody, I'm Sam. I am a front-end engineer. Been doing front-end for many years now. I also went to boot camp. I went to dev boot camp in the early days in 2013. And I also did a comp sci degree a long time ago, and I failed to break into the industry the first time. So I did comp sci, quit after like 6 months trying to look for a job. I graduated during the .com bust. It was a tough time and I didn't know what I was doing. So I just took any job I could get and pretty much forgot how to program. I just stopped until 11 years later, I went to dev boot camp and I successfully broke into the industry on my second attempt. So yeah, I worked at a whole bunch of different companies. I was most recently at Lyft. I quit in December. I joined the Tulsa Remote Program, which is a program where they're paying remote workers to move to Tulsa. So I'm in Tulsa now. I just got here a little over a month ago. It's pretty chill, just laid back over here. And I was gonna take a break this year from working, but I just got an offer yesterday. So I think I'm gonna sign the contract. It's for a company called Strike. It's a global payments app. So it's kind of like Cash App or Venmo, but instead of only being able to pay people in America, you can pay people anywhere and there's no fees. And they do that by leveraging new infrastructure on the Bitcoin network. But like the users don't know, they don't need to know anything about Bitcoin. They just use the infrastructure to facilitate the transactions. So that's all about me. Let's get to our special guest. We have a really awesome guest this week. It's the first time I think they said that they're doing a meetup together, a talk together. So we have Navi and Monarch here from Mintbean. I'm sure some of you here might already know what Mintbean is, some of you not. So hopefully, I don't know who wants to go first with the intro, Navi or Monarch. If you could give an intro about yourself and also for the people that don't know about Mintbean, if you can give an intro about Mintbean. And I think you have a podcast too, Monarch, I saw on LinkedIn. If you can talk about that, people are always asking like, what podcast should I listen to? So I haven't listened to your podcast. I don't know if you did one yet. I just saw that LinkedIn post, but from your LinkedIn post, it sounds awesome. So would be nice to hear about that as well.
Well, thanks a lot, Sam. And thanks, Brady, as well, for having Navi and I over here. Super excited to be over here. We've been working together Navi and I have been working together for the past 4 years, which is challenging and interesting because we're also married to each other, and we've been doing the whole tech startup thing together for 4 years now. Started with building code for clients, and now we're also running the startup, starting podcasts, and having all these great conversations in communities like the one we're in right now. I just joined the Developer Army Slack, and I'm so happy to be here at JDHH. Before I start, I really want to get to know everybody. And this is just so that I can make the word relevant is dirty these days, but it's actually a great word because ads being relevant and all that. But I really want to make this relevant to everybody. Can you guys tell me? Have you guys heard of Mintbean? Has anybody over here heard of Mintbean? If you have, drop it in Zoom and just say, yeah, I've heard of Mintbean before. Okay, I see one person, a couple of people. Okay, cool. Has anybody come to the Learnathons? Has anybody actually done an event at Mintbean? Oh, Brian did the music hack. Okay. Cool. Yeah, okay, awesome. And where's everybody from geographically? So I'm from Toronto, Canada. Where's everybody else from? And Navi's from Toronto, Canada as well. San Fran, Chicago, San Diego, Alameda, Chicago, San Fran, all over. Egypt, amazing. Oregon coast, Utah, Ottawa, Indiana, very, very cool. Okay, awesome. So we have people mostly from the US and Canada, mostly from the US, some from Canada, some from Egypt, which is awesome. Excellent. Okay, perfect. And who here has gotten their first job already? Anybody coming in here after getting the first job? Contract work is great. Cool. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, internships count. Ditto, not yet. Still in boot camp. Perfect. Just read. Congratulations, Shelby. Graduating is a big deal. So that's awesome. Amazing. Okay, great. Great. I'll do a quick intro of myself and all the work that I'm involved in personally. And Navi can talk about what she's involved in. I'll also do a brief intro about Mintbean just while I'm talking away. So I've been a software developer for almost 10 years. I broke through back when boot camps were just starting to become a thing. I decided not to go to a boot camp personally. Instead, I just went the self-taught route. Broke through, and it's been a crazy journey. A lot of people, I'm sure some of you guys over here are self-taught as well. A lot of people are really doing a lot of hard work to fix this really crazy industry that we're in. It's nuts. It's a completely broken hiring cycle, and I do not envy you guys for the position you're in. I was there 10 years ago, and I know exactly. To fix this, boot camps are starting to offer income sharing agreements. There are free boot camps out there now. There's so many great people starting up educational startups just to help new developers get into the industry at lower and lower cost. And you guys know all about this, but what we're doing over here at Mintbean is we're building a bridge for people who've recently graduated boot camp and are looking to get into the industry. There's a massive gap. And the way we do it is we've created a system of absolutely free learnathons, which are beginner-friendly, non-intimidating competitive programming exercises. They're usually called hackathons, but they're not super competitive. They're not meant to be high pressure, and we do them every single week so that you guys can get out of tutorial hell and actually build real live projects with an actual terminal, commit it, deploy it, push it up to Git, deploy it, get it in the hands of recruiters, and add that to your portfolio piece. So we do a full learnathon every single week, starting every Friday. We're on our 82nd one right now. And the one that's starting on the coming week, okay. Oh my God. The absolute worst time for this to happen is when you're doing a plug. That's like the absolute worst time. Sorry. Coming back. The one that's happening on Friday is about building a desktop game. It's a puzzle game, so you're gonna build a web-based puzzle game. But in addition to that, because it's a puzzle game, it's also a great way to exercise your algorithm skills. because puzzle games require just a little bit of algorithm skills. So great way to really do something that maybe you've never done before. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good intro from my end. Navi, if you want to take it away and introduce yourself, then you can. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. First of all, Brady, for inviting both Monarch and myself. You're absolutely right. We've never done a meetup together, so this is really cool. And also, sorry for running a little late. We couldn't find the link. I think we were looking for it in our calendar, but then realized it wasn't there. So a little bit about me. So kind of like Brady, I've done the boot camp in 2017, so right around the same time you did, and I also failed at trying to integrate myself into the industry as a developer. The tech stack that I learned at the GA local chapter here in Toronto was Ruby on Rails. And I'm not really sure where Ruby on Rails stands. There's always this debate of like how hot a certain technology is, but at that time there weren't that many local companies. I think there was one big shop, Shopify. I didn't intend on doing that. Who was, their language stack was Ruby, but they weren't really looking to invest in juniors at the time. There wasn't a ton of companies who were investing in Ruby on Rails. And the learning curve when you graduate from a boot camp to other languages is very high. You don't like it's very scary learning something. And Ruby on Rails is a language that sort of, I feel, sometimes limits you as a developer because it comes so easily. It's one of those languages where everything just feels like, oh, wow, this is so easy to pick up. Applications are so easy to build. So I definitely felt that when I was learning JavaScript. And, rightfully so, a lot of employers were giving me the feedback that they weren't ready to take a chance on me. And at the same time, Monarch was starting his own company, Zero Projects, which is the sister company to Mintbean, which is our dev firm. And I sort of started helping him with various different things because I understood development, at least, from an academic point of view. It was very easy for me to start helping hiring developers. And I realized I was really good at hiring developers because I understood how to build applications. It was something that kind of became very natural. And 4 years later, not only have I reviewed thousands of resumes, but now I'm sort of transitioned into managing day-to-day operations for both Zero as well as Mintbean. And I think Monarch touched upon what we do at Mintbean, but the reason why we started Mintbean is really because both of us had our own challenges in breaking into this industry. Monarch started, as you heard, self-taught, and there was no mentorship that he had. So there were lots of like pitfalls that he had to discover on his own. And even with the boot camp route myself, there I didn't make it into the industry as a developer. And if I reflect back now, I could tell my past self what some of the things that I could have done in order to break into this industry. And then on the flip side, running the firm and hiring so many developers and reviewing thousands and thousands of applications, I can see where developers fail. Having a strong resume and having strong skills don't necessarily go hand in hand. They're two very, very different things. A lot of developers end up failing at advocating for themselves in the at least at the top of the funnel, of like identifying themselves as a great talent. And then, so some of them are failing at the top of the funnel while others are failing at the technical interview. So if you have strong communication skills or you understand how to build a great LinkedIn profile and a great resume, but you don't necessarily, your strength isn't technical interviews, then you're failing at further down the pipeline. So those are some of the reasons why we really wanted to build a community like Mintbean. And the Learnathons, which are our spin on hackathons, are really a framework that we've built to make it easy to really think about healthy coding practices, to really think about, okay, let's move away from tutorial hell and let's start thinking about building. We wanted to take a look at it in terms of how do developers interact when they land on a product team? How does a developer interact when they get a freelance project? Usually does, like, all of these things depend on the size of the team. Sometimes you're given a design, sometimes you're not, but the basic premise is that you're given a set of user requirements. And that's what our Learnathons always have. So our Learnathons always have a set of user requirements where every single week we give a new prompt, and we'll kind of like, we've also thought about, the different experience level of developers and really broken that down further to MVP. Okay, let's build the core functionality of this app, and if you have a little bit more understanding and knowledge, well, here's some stretch goals and here's some advanced features that you can build. And that's really the core of the community, but there's like so much more that we do. We started an accelerator program where we hope to provide mentorship, more economically feasible to developers. We started a podcast Monarch launched a new podcast. It's called Predictions. It's really more on the business side, predictions about SaaS companies and, what are some of the issues that they deal with on that side, because we're also, as a startup, we're also a tech business, so we understand that really well. Yeah, that's my intro.
That was a great intro. Thanks, Navi.
Yeah.
There are so many questions right now on Slido. Sam, Brady, if you guys want to read them out to us, we can do that.
Yeah.
How do you guys do this?
Yeah, Brady usually moderates the questions. Also, could you drop the link for your podcast when you get a chance in the chat?
Absolutely.
All right, take it away,
Good.
Brady.
So yeah, while that pops up, I can start reading. First one here. What should someone expect going into their first hackathon?
Great question. Navi, do you want to take this one or should I?
Why don't you start and then I'll jump in.
Cool. Okay. When you start, expect for the first time not to do well. And we are completely okay with that. In fact, we tell you, if you can't finish, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it, because the whole point of the Learnathon is to learn. So when you come in with the expectation and the mindset that you're going to fail. That takes care of the imposter syndrome. That takes care of the fear and anxiety. And if you go in with the mindset of, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to build it out the way I would build out a personal project, you will do well. And this is a story that I tell sometimes about this one member. This actually happened. A member in the community, he came in and he was really really bummed out. He'd been looking for about a year for a job and he wasn't getting much luck. Like he really wasn't finding any roles. And I've seen people, a year is long. I've seen people who've gone without a job for 2 years and then finally they landed it through the hackathons. So this person, let's just call him Joe. So Joe was not his real name. So Joe had been doing this work for a year. He'd been doing the whole self-taught thing. He'd graduated. I think it might have been, I don't want to name the boot camp, but it was from a boot camp. And he came into the first hackathon. He did the hackathon and he messaged me in the middle of the hackathon, day before. And he said, hey, Monarch, I can't submit the project and I'm just going to drop out. I hope you don't mind. I hope that's okay. So I said, hey, that's great. Nice to meet you. Can you do me a favor? Come back next week and don't give up yet. Tell me, why weren't you able to finish the hackathon? What happened? So he said, I just wasn't able to build the app and I just wasn't able to build a functioning application. It's broken and the deployment processes, I don't know how to do it. So, I don't think I'm there. So I said, that's fine. Do me a favor. Next week, just focus on deployment and focus one app, just a blank page. And that's totally fine. If it's hello world, it's hello world, whatever. Tell me, did you learn anything? He said, oh yeah, I learned so much. And I learned how to start working with Heroku. I started learning how to deploy, and it was great. I said, cool. Okay. Next week, your job is to just deploy the app. He came back next week, he deployed it. It was just a blank page. He wasn't even able to get any words on it because he just wanted to deploy it. It took him all week, and he was working solo. I said, great. So why weren't so do you think next time you can actually build an application? And he said, yeah, I can give it a shot now that I know how to do deployments. So I said, okay, cool. You learned something. Awesome. Next week he came back and he had a simple page, but it was full of bugs. And I said, okay, well, it's working, but not really. What went wrong? So he told me, okay, I was having some issues with JavaScript and I just had a lot of bugs. I said, cool. Did you learn anything? And he said, yeah, I learned how to put together a basic web application and deploy it. And it's more than I've done in, a year since I graduated. I said, great, come back next week and deploy a basic application. And he came back next week and he deployed a basic application. The fourth application he deployed was great. And the fifth hackathon, he actually won. And 2 months after that, he went and he found a job, and this is the number that he told me, he was earning more than 65,000 Canadian. That's about 50,000 US per year. And I was just so proud of Joe. And these are stories, this is definitely a dramatic story, but these are the kinds of stories that are coming out of Mintbean each and every week. And it's a place where a lot of people are getting a lot of mentorship in a different way. When you think of mentorship, you usually think, hey, can somebody sit down and teach me how to code and answer my questions? And the way we do mentorship is the community mentors each other. And we have a Discord community with more than 2,000 developers in there. They're mostly junior devs. A lot of them now are in their first jobs. And it's been going on for a year, and you're more than welcome to come. And that's the kind of help that you can get over there. So if you want to know the expectations of what goes into the hackathons, come in there with the expectation that you're going to fail, and that's fine. And as long as I like to say, as long as you're writing the code in your head and you're building the code that's in your head, the code that you're writing doesn't matter. And as long as you're learning something each and every week, that's what matters the most. Yeah, I think that should answer that question.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you call them learnathons too. Like hackathon definitely has some connotation of people who have been doing this for years and years and years and can be intimidating to jump into. And actually it's a similar question that's coming up next, but it kind of leads into it. How do hackathons work? As a very new developer, I'm intimidated by them and don't know how to join one.
They're all different, and every single one has something that's special about it. So there are hackathons that, and there's so many out there, they're all great. Most of them have cash prizes and money that they put up, and they're hoping to attract really sharp developers, cream of the crop. And they're either there for marketing, and that's why they're hosting the hackathon, or they're there because somebody's hiring a bunch of devs and they've hosted the hackathon to find really good talent. So it's a really good place to go and learn new things, learn about new technology and products, which is useful, and also to find work. But of course, you guys know that I don't have to tell you this, the market for senior developers is extremely hot. The market for junior developers is difficult it's really hard. It's really hard for a junior dev to get a job. So what we're doing, we're using the hackathon format to teach people. And there are no cash prizes. There's no concept of, okay, you get a PlayStation or you get $10,000. We don't do that. We think it attracts the wrong kind of energy, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a safe space for learning to happen. So it's a friendly competition. Yes, people are trying to win, but by far about 60 to 80% of people are there just to learn. And many of them don't submit, but they keep coming back. Many of them submit projects that are a little buggy, but about 40% are there to build their portfolio up. And yeah, they do win from time to time, and we do put that up on LinkedIn. That gets a lot of recruiter attention. So if you think that you're in it to win, great. If you think you're at that skill level, amazing. You can actually get a lot of attention from recruiters when we put up that winner announcement. A lot of recruiters take a look at Mintbean to make sure that to find good talent. to find people who can actually win. So did I answer the question? I think I forgot the question, but
yeah, it was what can they expect? How can I'm sorry, the first one was what to expect. The second one was how do they work and how to join one.
Yeah, just you just show up. Real honestly, it's like a pickup game. Just come in, just show up. There's really no formality. If you come with friends, you can. There's another question: how big is the team? I think somebody asked how many people can join in a team. Yeah, Tanvir asked, do you have to be in a team to join a hackathon? So for that one, I guess I can just answer that one while we're going. You can have a team of 1, 2, or 3. So you can do it solo, you can do it as a pair or with 3 people. And there's absolutely no reason to do it solo if you don't want to. There's absolutely no reason to do it in a team if you don't want to. It's up to you. It's a pickup game. We do have a find a team channel where you can come in and you can find other people and you can create a group. Even if you're coming in solo but you want a group, there's a good chance you'll find somebody to work with. Hope that answered that question too. So yeah, just come in. How you register is you go to mintbean.io, go to the meets tab on the top and look at the hackathons coming up. Now we've started to number them. So you'll see Web Dev Learnathon number 83, 84, 85. Click on one of those. They'll have, there are a lot of workshops there, so you can ignore those or you can come there. To the workshops too, but for the learnathons, just click the one you want to go to. All the info is there. So the next one is desktop puzzles. The one after that is different. This week we're building a CSS framework. So how it works is we give you the core of the application. So this week I actually provided a starter pack with just H1 through H6 in different colors with Sass installed. So we give you sometimes we give you the entire learning, the starter pack, but sometimes it's just, we just give you product requirements and we give you technical tips to get started in the beginning so you're not lost. And then it's open-ended at the end. So by the time you get to the end of the hackathon, you're on your own and then your creativity can kick in after you've done the core. So it's fully guided in the beginning and then it's open-ended.
I'm just going to jump in for a quick second and explain the week-long logistics of it. So everything that Monarch said, plus we have a lot of code mentor support as well. So I think this week we have about 4 or 5 different touch points where we actually qualify our code mentors. It's not just, even though it is a volunteer gig, we actually have a whole application process. We interview them. We make sure that they're qualified to answer your questions. And it's structured in a way where you have ample time to really think about the prompt. And also, we know that a lot of you are looking for work. So we try to kind of I guess, piece it in such a way where you're still able to dedicate a couple of hours to, pumping out those job applications and yet still participate in something like this. And we provide lots of different guideposts on like what you should be doing within the week. Like you should, here's how you should work on your MVP. You should ensure deployment at this stage. You can come with teams, or you can hack solo or learn solo. And there's a whole guidebook. Like we try to make sure that we understand our audience really well, because these are mostly junior developers. Although I do hate that word. So
I wanna add. I wanna make sure that everybody gets a lot of value out of this talk. I don't want to turn it into a massive ad. So here are some questions that Navi and I are really good at answering. What are trends in jobs and technologies in JavaScript? How do you get the attention of a recruiter? I'm not getting any responses. Can you debug it with me? Happy to debug it with you. And that way we can use that. Questions about careers, questions about technology, and if it's not JavaScript related, that's fine. I've worked in JavaScript, Java. I've done Ruby on Rails. I've dabbled in. I've actually done production Python, production PHP. I kind of know the .NET world from an outsider's perspective. I can talk a little bit about Rust and Golang and that kind of stuff. So technology-wise, I can answer. Navi's really good at the resume and career advice. So if there are any questions about that stuff, which is probably very, very helpful for you guys, don't be shy. You can ask those questions as well.
Great. I appreciate you calling that out. Thank you. Ironically, it seems like there's more hackathon questions at the top of the list so far, but yeah, anyone feel free to keep on the vein of some of the question ideas that Monarch had just listed out. This one right up here is, what is something common that you see in Mintbean hackathons that you think beginner devs should improve on? So maybe if there's any trends of someone just starting out.
For sure. And maybe the next one we can do, I see one, which is there a platform you recommend to get resume reviews? That one looks great. Maybe we can kind of move away from the hackathon questions. I know there are a lot, and let's do this. While Navi's answering career questions, I'll answer the hackathon questions in chat. And I want to make sure that people get value out of this.
Okay,
So let's
yeah,
do
that sounds excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so what is something common you see in Mintbean hackathons that you think beginner devs should improve on? I think just having having an understanding of what situation you find yourself in. Let me start over. Understanding that failure is okay, and the reason why it's okay, and what imposter syndrome is. So imposter syndrome, you've seen this graph. There's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I really want you guys to Google this. I'm going to type it in. Typos. Anyway, Dunning-Kruger effect. I want everybody to Google it. And what it is what imposter syndrome it's been remarketed as imposter syndrome, which is a really terrible way to call something that's natural. Dunning-Kruger effect is the natural progression of a person as they learn any new skill, be it riding a bicycle or learning Latin, doesn't matter, or learning how to code. And how it works is, in the beginning, you're super confident about things, and you become more and more confident as you learn the basics, and you get to a point where you say, yeah, I can do this. This is great. Not as hard as I thought. And then you actually get hit with the real problems that you didn't see at that point. And as soon as you hit your first stumbling block, when you fall off that bicycle, you're so scared and you're hurt and you don't know what's happening. And I would probably break down and cry and call for my mommy. But anyway, so when you're learning how to ride a bike, and the thing is, when you get past that dip, Seth Godin, I think it was Seth Godin, wrote a great book called The Dip. Talks about the same pattern from a different lens. When you're at that bottom point where a lot of you find yourself right now, you're actually at you've actually hit rock bottom in terms of your learning curve and in terms of your confidence. And what happens next is you slowly start building up confidence as you discover the skills that you need to get over the next block. Let me make it more concrete. I'm a JavaScript developer. I just built a simple HTML5 website. That's great. Now my instructor gave me a React website to build. And oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. What is this single direction data flow thing? And what are all these crazy symbols inside my JavaScript file? It looks like HTML. What's a prop? And you start just getting frazzled by everything you don't know, because every time a question is answered, four new questions pop up to take its place. So what you don't know starts coming into vision, and that completely freaks a lot of people out, because now you have an accurate vision of what you don't know. But that's great, because then you can actually address it. And that's what imposter syndrome, the word imposter syndrome, fails to address. It's just a scary word for a very natural point in time in your learning curve. And after that, I don't think I've been more confident in my life about my technical skills than I am right now. But I can tell you this, I was more confident when I started, and I'm less confident now. But at this point in my career, I know what I don't know, and I'm okay with not knowing. So when you're coming into the hackathons, don't get freaked out. Don't go deeper into imposter syndrome. Just realize that if you're failing the hackathons, it's because you don't know, and it's okay to fail. It's okay not to submit. Just keep coming back, and the next week they're completely free. You don't have to pay for them. The next week you're going to do better and better and better, and at some point you're going to win a hackathon, and then you're going to find that job, and you're still not going to know everything that software development has to offer. There's new knowledge and new frameworks and new languages being created every day. You don't have to be an expert, but I promise you, if you come in with the mindset of I will learn and I will get better, you will you will absolutely you'll just do really well for your career. Forget the hackathons. You'll do really well for your own career, and that's something that I think a lot of beginner devs don't really do. And if you come in with that mindset, I think you'll be ahead of the curve.
All right. So then, yeah, let's we can kind of go out of order of the votes, but the next one that we had already mentioned was, whoop, I think it just moved around. Is there a platform that you recommend to get resume reviews? Was that, I think that was the one.
Yeah, Navi, you want to take that one? I'll start answering. I'll finish off all the hackathon questions.
Sure. I actually really wanted to answer the, I can get back to this question. I really wanted to answer the question on, since you mentioned that marketing yourself is a separate skill. How do you find skilled developers? What do you look for instead to dig beyond the resume? I think this one's kind of my jam. So I think the way that we hire developers and having a great community that is, like we've been very fortunate. I think the last year having Mintbean, we can pick talent right from Mintbean. We don't need to go post our jobs anywhere. We've actually hired 10 developers straight out of the community, and we've Monarch, under Monarch's direction, he's mentored them as junior developers, and then they've gone on, and within like 6 months they've become sort of intermediate developers. So we really kickstarted their careers. But when it comes into like how do we find developers, if it wasn't for the community, is myself as a hiring person, what I do is when I see a resume and I don't see a ton of experience, I actually go right into I open up like your LinkedIn, I'll open up your GitHub, I'll open up your portfolio, and the first place I'll look at is your GitHub, and I want to know how active you've been. So I'll look at that calendar, and that's the first indicator of how much code you've been pushing. And then if I see it, like, if I'm happy with the fact that you've been pushing code every day, I'll even take a deeper look into your repositories and see what kind of projects you're building. I'll take a look at, are you just kind of pushing bunch of to-do apps, and like you're not really, there's no meat behind the push. So I'll take a look at the types of repositories that you've been building in the last 30 days, last 60 days, if you don't have a ton of experience. And then I'll land on your portfolio and I'll browse around the projects that you've built. First, I'll kind of get a sense of it from a user perspective, and then I'll take a look at your repo and I'll kind of see like, when did you build that project? Was there other people who contributed to that project? One of the things that is a major pet peeve of mine is when, because I've done a bootcamp myself, is when developers lead with their capstone project. And so if that's like that's a portfolio piece that they're showing on their resume, that's the first time you really understood how to build an application. Unless you've been working on it for several months after that, don't lead with that project. Do something outside of the capstone that wasn't with a bunch of other developers who were at the same stage as you. Really own building projects. So I think that way that we hire in Mintbean is really taking a look at how much pushes you've done, what your GitHub activity is. And then I also think that now that we have all these fantastic platforms like Hashnode, DevTO, I also might take a look at like how active you are. Are you writing technical blogs? But that might just be if I'm on the fence about something. So hope that answered that one. And then I think there was another question about which platform to use for resumes. I think Hunter is a good one. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of platforms that are good at this, at resume tracking. I think Hunter is a good one, but I personally just recommend using Excel, Airtable. Like you don't need a lot. You just need to make sure that you're tracking which job you've applied to, and then take a look at, make sure you're adjusting the status of the jobs you're applying to as well. Hey, you applied to this job, and they sent you a rejection letter without even moving through any of the stages. You applied for this job, and where did that rejection point come in? Did it come in when they got on the phone with you? Did it come in when a technical hiring manager got, like they started talking about their tech stack, or they started doing a whiteboard session, and that's where you got rejected? Did you get rejected at a test that they send you? And what this does is it allows you to sort of create a data story for yourself, and you're able to see what your weak points are, and you're able to pretty much like make improvements on, okay, well, I'm not very, like, clearly my resume is very weak if I'm getting rejected without so much of a single phone call, or even like they're not even sending me a simple test. This means that like something in your GitHub, you're not pushing enough. The signaling issue is wrong. Like you're not giving the right signals.
Can I hop in really quick?
Sure.
Oh, do you mind if I share my screen, if that's okay?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I'll need permission.
Oh yeah. Putting Sam on the spot.
Sorry, Sam.
I got it. I think you should be able to share now.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And here we go. So this is the format that I use for tracking. This is the format that I used back when I was applying to jobs to track. The things that you really want to track are the things that are the most important, which means you don't want to track everything. The job title doesn't matter because you apply to the company, not the job, for the most part. Maybe you want to track the title, but what I used to do is I'll just drop the company name. So let's say I applied to Uber. And then let's say I applied to it somewhere here, a random link. I'll just drop the link after I've applied. I'll just drop the link to the job description or to my application receipt. Then I'll add notes. Looks cool. Not sure if they want Python. And then that's it. And history, I'll just say applied. The first history entry is actually the date I applied. So 2021, 03, whatever date it is. And then let's say they got back. And then I'll do the same thing, just going down. I'll do exactly the same thing for multiple different companies as I go and apply. And then let's say Uber got back, the first one got back. Then I'll say got a phone call 2021, 03, 21. And then let's say I got an interview, then I'll just keep adding to the right. So on the right, then it'll be attended interview 2021, 04, 15, and so on and so forth. And I'll just keep tracking this in this format. It's better than anything because it doesn't get more efficient than this format. It doesn't get more efficient. This is cross-platform compatible. You can use it on any platform that you're applying to jobs on. This is intuitive. This you can do data queries on this. If you're good at Excel, then you can actually do Excel functions. You can customize it, and it's all you need. And it's free if you have Excel, or Google Sheets is definitely free. So this is the format that I tell everybody to use when they're tracking. Don't worry about where you're applying. Use the free platforms, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Hired.com. They're all great. The thing that's blocking you is not the platform you're using, unless you're using something that's completely unknown and that's all you're using. But the thing that's probably blocking you is your resume or your interview style or your technical skills. It's not going to be the platform you're using. If you're talking about, when you say platform, if it's tracking, then this is the best way to track. This is the best platform to use to track. For applications, use everything. Don't limit yourself to one platform.
Great. Yeah, I really suggest tracking all of that information as well. I know we've talked about different strategies of really focusing on networking or focusing on just trying to apply, but being able to know where you stand in all of those is very important. Okay, so if you don't mind going to the next one, I know that some of the people here, yes, they're just getting into tech, but maybe they've got on their horizon a couple years in the future or sooner than a couple years in the future of maybe starting their own business. Would you be able to talk about some of the challenges that you've faced starting your own business?
Sure,
Navi,
Nat.
you wanna, yeah, you
Yeah.
want to go? Yeah.
Many challenges, many challenges. I think it's a learning curve. I think, there's no, you can kind of read all the books, and, both Monarch and I have a finance background. That's actually where we met. And this is so it's funny. We have my pedigree is definitely more business. Not only did I graduate with a commerce degree, I had a minor in marketing, and then I was in corporate for about 6 years before deciding that wasn't for me, and then jumping and doing a boot camp and then failing trying to integrate as a developer. But starting your own business is very tricky, with even the business knowledge that I had, and even Monarch to a lot of extent. But I think the biggest learnings we've had in the last 4 years is probably people. Hiring the right people is, I think it's something that we've gotten definitely a lot better at over the 4 years. Is your team matters, like, the culture that you create, and yeah, hiring the right people, I would say, is a very big one. And then of course, scaling and finding revenue, and how you can differentiate yourself from your competitors.
I used to take that. I used to watch a lot of business videos, and every single video would say what Navi said, which is you got to find the right people and hire them. And I used to scoff at it, and I kind of I'm kind of forced to eat my words now because I now know how important it is. I also wanted to add, in the beginning stages, it's a different game from the middle stages. And from what I've been hearing, and also from my own experience, what I'm expecting is the next stage in our business as we scale. That's going to be a different ball game altogether. So when you're asking about what difficulties you faced when you started the business, I think the answer in the beginning was very different from the answer right now. Would you agree, Navi?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, like, if I could go back to 4 years ago, yeah, there's so much learning that has happened in the last 4 years, whether it comes to hiring, whether it comes to how we deal with, um, every single new project that comes in, whether it's on zero side, how we deal with clients, to just, there's just tons and tons of things that you just don't know when you start out. I don't know, it has like these cycles. Like, I think when you first start, like, you're very hopeful and you're very excited about this new journey, but then like all these roadblocks keep coming up, and you're like, oh, okay. And I think one thing that I want to say about opening up your own shop is sometimes it can get very lonely, and you're not able to share a lot of like the trivials of like the stuff that happens on the back end. And I think me and Monarch are very fortunate that we're married, and like we can, we have like our relationship that we can lean on and kind of rely on each other to be like, okay, no, this is okay, like we got it. But I really feel for founders who are doing it by themselves. I think it can get very, very lonely.
Yeah, that's you both understand very well how each other's day at work went, probably. All right, here. Pop-ups are destroying my view. Okay. So back to resumes for a minute. Do you recommend having a visually appealing resume? Do those attract more interviews compared to a simple plain Word doc?
My answer is no, and I think Navi's answer is yes, I think.
No, my answer is similar to yours as well.
Okay.
So it's really funny. Monarch and I are very different from each other, and that is the biggest strength for what we bring into both our businesses, whether it's Zero or Mintbean, is we're able to see things from different perspectives. But I agree with you here, though. The visual appealing resume, honestly, there's so many different platforms that like allow you to make these super creative resumes. But if you're make it easy for the person who's reading your resume, the recruiters are not like, what tends to happen is when I put up, like, let's say I put up a job that we need a developer for. This is before the community existed. I think now it's become definitely easier to hire developers for us. But it would take anywhere from like 1 to 3 months, that cycle, before we could bring someone on. And you are looking at thousands of resumes for one opening, right? So at the top of the funnel, when you're looking at these resumes, you're not really spending that much time. Within 30 to 60 seconds if you want to go further or if this is a pass. So the first thing that like someone who's at least screening the resumes, they're looking at your resume from anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. And if they're not able to gauge, if you're not interested within your profile, within that limited bandwidth, then they've already lost you. So you need to make sure that the way you package information is in a pretty, like, I actually really like the way that you've said this many times, Monarch, of like pushing certain things to the left corner, talking about your tech stack as sort of like a tool belt, like remove the fluff from the resume. And I think you have a couple of things here, Monarch, that you've said in our community that I'd like you to share.
Sure. About resume format? Sure. So you're going to apply to dozens of jobs, hundreds of jobs, depending on if you're taking the networking route or the job application route or some hybrid of the two. I personally never networked because I didn't have, when I started, business kind of knocked it into me, but I didn't have very good soft skills back in the day. And it was a weakness of mine. I was super shy. That was my problem. It was nothing else for the most part. But yeah, like I basically started looking at dozens of resumes from around the internet, seeing formats, and started piecing together just through trial and error what worked. And what I found, it still holds true today, 10 years later, at just the same as it did back then, is the top left is the most important corner. And you can kind of imagine almost like a force of gravity pulling your, is this top left? I think this is top left. No, this is top left. This is top left. It mirrors, right? This is top left. Okay, yeah. So you can almost imagine a force of gravity pulling heavy objects to the top left. And because the heavy stuff is getting pushed down, obviously the lighter stuff gets pushed to the bottom right. And what's the heavy stuff? The heavy stuff is what's important. So what's the most important thing? Your name. So obviously your name has to go at the top left. What's the second most important thing? GitHub. And if not GitHub, then your email. They're both up there. So either your GitHub link and your LinkedIn links or socials, so that they know who you are, or your email, so they know where to find you, goes right below your name. Your address does not belong there. I recommend not putting an address. Just your city is fine, but do put a city. And what comes after your bio, which should be about that long, what comes after that? Anything that marks you as relevant to the current job. So your technical toolkit is the #1 thing they use for relevance. So what goes on the top left? Any guesses? What should go on the top left of your technical toolkit, which is already on the top left? What's the most important?
Languages.
Yep, languages. And which language? So
Your best language.
Your best language. And what about frameworks?
Right after that.
what frameworks would you put in there? So let's say you're a front-end developer, and you know HTML, JavaScript, jQuery, React, you know CSS, you know Sass. What goes to the top left?
REST,
Why?
because it's an API.
Nope.
You would also
Nope, not REST. Anybody else want to take a guess? And I'll tell you guys why not REST.
React.
Yeah, React. From the list that I mentioned, React. Why?
Because React focuses on the front end, the DOM,
Nope.
which is the main thing that requires.
Has nothing to do with relevance. Any other guesses why React? It is React. Any other guesses why React?
Is it because it's one of the most popular ones that are used across the industry?
That's right. So in Toronto, if I do if I do a search on Indeed, if I look for almost any other technology, any other specific technology, I'll get, okay, if I look for REST and if I look for HTML, I'll get almost every job has that. The jobs that are looking for React, there are about 1,000 or 2,000 of them in Toronto itself. And those are the jobs that pay really well. And those are the jobs that you should be aiming for. So you should be aiming for the highest paying, most popular job in your local area that you can feasibly fulfill. So you're relatively good at. If you know React, React is it. Why React and why not REST? Because REST, everybody has REST. Everybody has REST. Like I have REST. Like you're a beginner boot camper in the first week has REST. A kid who's in grade 7 has REST if they're doing any web development. Anybody who's made an API call has REST, and it is not something that anybody looks for because guess what? If you know React, you probably know REST. So I don't even put REST. I do put it, but it goes at the bottom right of my toolkit so that I can get tagged by the ATS systems and the automatic algorithms can pick me up. But the top left should be React because React is the one thing that everybody is looking for, pays really well, and guarantees you a job that's going to give you a long-term career in software development and is relevant to the people who are looking for people who have REST. So React. And React implies REST. React implies JavaScript. React implies HTML. So just by saying React, I'm telling you, I know CSS, HTML, JavaScript. I probably know a little bit of what you may call it, REST. I might know GraphQL. I'll list GraphQL down because it's very specific and companies look for that when they're separating the wheat from the chaff. So if everybody's putting REST down and you're putting REST on the top left, I immediately lose interest because, oh, okay, maybe they don't have REST. The first impression is, oh, okay, they have REST, but so does everybody else. What does this person have that's special? And the first step should not be what makes you so common. Sorry, what makes you a developer? REST is what makes everybody a developer. Put down what makes you special. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Put down what makes you special. Put down the most difficult, most industry relevant, most popular, most technically rigorous languages and frameworks, you know, because guess what? That's also a barrier to entry, right? Every developer knows REST, but not every developer knows React. Why? Because React is hard. React is hard. Boot camps teach React, and they spend a lot of time teaching you React, and it's probably one of the hardest things that you learn, and you don't learn all of it when you graduate. There's still a lot more to learn. So that's a barrier to entry, and it works like that. People are filtered out because they don't have React. So the thing that will get you into the high-paying job, that will kick other people out, that's the thing that is relevant. So I'm kind of trying to give you a different perspectives on why React. If there are any questions about that, drop them in. Everything else should be text, plain text, so that you can edit your resume over and over again. Don't do anything fancy. Don't do a multi-column layout. ATS systems hate that. It's also very difficult to manage and to edit. Keep it to 1 page, maybe 2 pages. Don't go past 2 pages, obviously, like everybody knows this. But everything important goes to the top. Everything that makes you more relevant and makes you stand out goes higher and higher to the top left. If you don't have experience, there's remedies for that. But yeah, like there's like case-based things that I can answer depending on your specific scenario. But I think I should stop the answer here for this particular question.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in for a quick second. I just want to add to what Monarch is saying that the telltale of junior developers is when they list all the technologies that they've ever touched. And it's just like everything such as HTML and CSS, but so it's a telltale that that you're someone who's very new to the industry. So I usually tell members in our community that use a scale from 1 to 10. 1 represents you watched a video on said technology, and 10 represents you can take a set of user requirements and build in that framework. So everything that you put on your resume should be over 5. So if it's over 5 to 10, it should go on your resume. If it's under between 1 to 5, it should not live there.
What if I have a bunch of things over a 5? I know that sounds like I'm bragging, but like I got into programming by like doing a bunch of different things, and I spent a whole lot of time on each one.
I would say, what are your most enjoy, like where do you find interest in the most? So because you don't want to, like, let's say if you're can you maybe list a few technologies so I can maybe drill that down further?
SciPy, NumPy, Numba, scikit-learn, Pandas, Julia, MLJ.
So mostly Python, and then Julia is, I think, a database, if I remember correctly.
No, Julia is Python on steroids.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm thinking of Cassandra. Okay, sorry, Navi. Lots of women's names. I promise you, there's nothing fishy going on. I promise you. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Sounds like Python and data analysis or statistical stuff maybe is what I got out of that, because you said NumPy and a few other ones. So your domain seems to be Python broadly. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm looking for machine learning work.
Gotcha. Are you looking for any other kind of work?
I mean, I guess I could do just basic Python elsewhere, but that's where all of my experience is. I know this is mostly a web dev community, so I'm very much in the minority as a machine learning floof. Gotcha.
I think in your case, to the top left goes, I'm not a machine learning guy, but on the top left, you would put anything. Again, what makes you stand out? What makes you have more value than the next machine learning person? That's the question.
Well, I have multiple talks that I've given at pretty serious ML and bioinformatics groups.
So that should go right below your technical toolkit. That's very impressive. So if you've given talks, I would say put that even above your experience, because that's something that really sets you apart. So you can maybe have links to your talks if there are recordings, or if there's proof of you having given a talk, I would put links down right above your experience section. Keep it slim so that they can go to experience, but keep it like highlighted accomplishments. You can put it in an accomplishment section. That could go below your experience as well. But great, that's good. In terms of technical toolkit, I don't know what to tell you because you're in machine learning, so I don't know. If it was, but if it was web stuff, then I would be able to help you out more on that end. But still, the top left thing it still applies. So everything that makes you stand out goes to the top left. And if you don't know what makes you stand out, then you should be Googling, spending an hour or two. I promise you, for any technology, you can find the answer in about half an hour, whether it's valuable or not, just by going and looking for, you know what, not even half an hour, in 5 minutes, go to Indeed, type down whatever it is that makes you stand out, whatever you think is valuable, go to Indeed. In your local city, type whatever, NumPy, put NumPy down, and see how many results come up in the job descriptions list. Like, look at it. And if it's not too many, then it's probably not in demand, or it's very niche, which makes you stand out. Now, depending on, you will know which one it is. As soon as you see the numbers, you'll know which one it is. It's either, there's a thriving community for that particular language, and that's something that really does make you stand out, but nobody puts it on job descriptions because it's too niche. Then that's something that you can put on the bottom right of your technical toolkit as a kicker. But what goes on the top left is something that's valuable and popular. What goes on the bottom right is something that's only valuable and niche. But that's something that will make you stand out, goes to the bottom right. If it's popular and valuable, goes to the top left.
My whole field is niche.
Sorry?
My whole field is niche though.
Are you saying that they don't have jobs for machine learning people?
No, as in there are a bunch of jobs, but there aren't many people doing them. Like there are a lot more web developers than there are ML people, right? So like I don't know what a big number is. Like when I typed in NumPy, I got like 83 hits.
Gotcha. And what if you type in what's the most popular machine learning framework in Python?
We use libraries, not frameworks. So there are a bunch of them. There's like deep learning stuff, and there's also just traditional machine learning. So
what about TensorFlow? Like if you look for TensorFlow, how many responses do you get?
Let's compare. 216.
Gotcha. So 83, that means it's relatively popular compared to TensorFlow. Now, what can you compare TensorFlow to, which is more popular with equal importance?
Well, about as popular as PyTorch.
Okay. How many responses do you get for PyTorch?
158.
Okay, so that means that NumPy seems to be pretty popular, and if TensorFlow is 230, I think I'm getting a feel for it. Sounds like you should put NumPy towards the top left, but because it's a library, I don't know. I think what you should probably do is look for, you can open up I don't know if you can. I have an employer's account on Indeed. And what I can do is I can look for resumes on Indeed as an employer. If you can get an employer account, you can go do reverse research that way and maybe find samples of resumes that are 10, 20, 30 years old. See if you can find patterns over there. That's a good way to do it.
Okay.
Go to
It's just
LinkedIn
like,
is another way to do it. Yeah.
On the job requirements, they will like specifically ask for certain libraries because a library in ML is the equivalent of a framework because it's not like a little thing. It's like freaking enormous. And there are like sub libraries within the library. NumPy is one of the leaner ones, but SciPy is like, all right, we're not in Kansas anymore. And then PyTorch and TensorFlow are like, you never learn all of it. You just like use some of it.
Gotcha. So it's a different market from the one I'm used to, but it sounds like it follows similar general rules. So I think if you take the ones, this is where you should experiment. So for example, if you were a PHP programmer, I have no clue what's going on in the world of PHP, no clue right now. So what I would probably tell you to do is go and start experimenting with it, keep a tracker, track every single job application, and just try and develop a mouthfeel for what's popular and what do people really want. It's not really something that you statistically track. It's something that you just develop an intuition for as you go through the industry. And like if I say I'm a React developer, some like a recruiter's eyes will light up. If I say I'm an HTML developer, nobody cares. So that kind of tells me that React is more popular. So the more people you talk to, the more recruiters you talk to, the more you'll know what's popular and whatnot. You should talk to recruiters. You should do informational interviews with recruiters. They would love to talk to you, especially if you have a few years of experience. Even if you're a junior, a lot of them are very open to giving you feedback and telling you what's popular. Informational interviews are a great way to find out what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. They'll give you confusing and conflicting advice, but look for the general principles and look for like read between the lines and see what's common between what everybody is saying, and the commonalities will lead you in the right direction.
Awesome. And I guess there's a follow-on question to that. Where should volunteer experience go if it is coding, actually? Because I'm a technical interview instructor too.
Do you have any work experience? Probably, right?
No, actually, I've never had a job.
Then volunteer experience goes at the very top because that stands in lieu of job experience, especially if it's significant volunteer experience. That's a good hack for you to get in, by the way. If you can go to this is for charities. Don't do volunteering for companies like mine. Like don't do volunteering for companies that won't pay you. Like do volunteering for companies that will either pay you or that are nonprofits, and like don't work 40 hours a week for people who aren't going to pay you and are for profits. That's illegal. And I think definitely Ontario, probably most states and provinces. So that's just just volunteer experiences at charities and nonprofits, great way to break in.
Yeah. I teach the beginner LeetCode section at Women Who Code. I go every 2 weeks.
Super cool. would you consider maybe asking them if they have a more full-time thing that you can get involved in? Because that's a great way to get your 40 hours a week, even if you're not getting paid for it, and get a good reference. And you can actually list that down as a job under an experience section, and then say, in little brackets, say volunteer, 40 hours a week. That's a great way to tell the recruiter that, look, you're serious about it and you've been getting on the job experience, even if you're not getting paid.
Oh, I mean, they don't have a lot of money and they're real cheap. Like at one point they had one shared Zoom account for the entire worldwide organization. So yeah, there's no there's no paying work, but maybe there is more volunteering that I could do. I'm trying to spin up different coding interviews, practice things. Another one at Women Who Code Philly.
Gotcha. Let's pause here. Any other questions?
I think there's a number. Sorry, Adam. I think those are really great questions. And I think you raise a really valuable point on volunteer experience.
Yeah, they're actually really good questions. I actually enjoyed that string of questions. I just noticed the time. That was actually great. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, I think for everyone, this is not just a machine learning thing. Volunteer experience should live in your experience. Also, we don't hire free volunteers, so that is not a practice that we encourage at all. Do you want to?
The only exception is code mentors who come in an hour a week, and we don't pay for those. But other than that, we've never hired a full-time or part-time or casual employee or freelancer for free ever. And this was from the beginning of the company. So yeah, we paid crap, but we paid.
Hey, Monarch, do you want to do a quick power round of all the questions?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you wanna time it?
Yeah. So let's maybe quickly go through them. Keep your answers short. You have a tendency to ramble.
I know.
So, okay. How important is it to talk to recruiters about your past work experience or dev unrelated degree when looking for your first job?
Very, very, especially if you can spin it in a way. I had retail and retail management. I spun it by saying I have customer service, and I was able to get attention that way. It also gave me a lot of if I would hire somebody if I had a job opening, let me start with that. If I had a job opening and if you had hospitality or management experience or any leadership experience at all or communication experience from your previous field, I am very interested in talking to you because that's something that I can use. I can use you as somebody who's client facing, and that takes a lot of weight off my shoulders as a small business owner. And certain industries will want that kind of experience. So yeah, you should totally don't shy away. Absolutely say that you're a career switcher. It's better than saying you're a fresh newbie.
And to add to that, I think career switchers, I know that we actually find it beneficial if you're coming in as an experienced professional and you have 5-6 years of experience, either in customer service. We've hired people who have been translators, who have had a PhD, who have had a hospitality background, and you're able to weave that story in because for the hospitality background, that's a great person to put in front of clients for us because they understand communication skills and they understand what just what can you say to a client and what you can't say to a client. So definitely lean in on your past experience. How do you handle a technical interview question when you have no idea what the solution is? I say be honest.
You're done answering. What? What's the question?
How do you handle a technical interview question when you have no idea what the solution is?
You start by saying you have no idea what the solution is, but you'll take a whack at it. Then you take a whack at it, and then you ask them questions about the places where you don't know what the answer is. In a not like it's slightly delicate. What I've actually done is I've started with I have no clue what this is. Here's how I would do it. How would you do it? And then I use that as an opportunity to learn on the interview. It also signals that I want to learn, and it gives them an idea of how coachable I am or I'm not.
And if you're honest, it also shows your integrity. So don't lie in the interview. It also shows that you're humble. So don't ever say something when you don't know what it is. Start with the truth. As a recruiter, how do you determine if a developer is ready to take on a responsibility for a senior or lead?
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Depends on senior and lead are designations, they're roles, they're not jobs. And senior just means you are a subject matter expert, relatively speaking, and you can be left alone to develop on your own. So all of you are senior HTML developers, right? Because if I gave you an HTML site to build, I'm sure all of you would be able to handle it just fine. Lead means you can lead a team and you can offer mentorship and you can do a little bit of conflict resolution, maybe a little bit of project management and planning. And lead is the first step towards a management role, as opposed to senior, which may or may not be. So lead is really, so I hope that answers your question by giving you more information and that sheds light on the nature of your question.
Your past work is also a great indicator of like where you're going. So even if you don't have experience as a senior developer and you're trying to transition from intermediate, but you can kind of prove that in the interview process, that you can be left, to yourself and like basically figure it out. And leading is something that either usually happens where you identify talent like that in-house, or usually if you're hiring for a lead role, you'd like to see that someone has done something like that prior.
Somebody asked functional programming or object-oriented. JavaScript, better than either. But no, seriously, they're artificially separated, and most programming languages support both.
Cool. So from a portfolio perspective, should I put all my projects small and big, or do you recommend putting 2 or 3? Is there a minimum number of projects? Good question.
Depends on how many projects you have. If you have like hundreds, just put the best ones. If you have 15 or 20, then put the best ones at the top and highlight them, and maybe have small links or slightly smaller UI elements for the rest, is how I would do it.
Also, take a look at which projects you're proud of. So sometimes we have a tendency of listing everything. So make sure that you're actually proud of the projects that you've listed. And it's not just like, here's the 20 things that I've built in the last 30 days. Relevancy matters as well. If you're applying for a lot of React roles, then you want to show React portfolio pieces. If you're applying for a GraphQL or certain niche libraries, then you want to show projects in that said technology.
I'll add quickly that your GitHub is not your portfolio, and your GitHub can be a graveyard of projects. You can have like mine used to be I think it still is a graveyard of projects. It's just tons and tons of broken stuff that I never used. That's totally fine because nobody's going to check to see if your code is working. Nobody does that. But your portfolio should be separate from your GitHub. And what we're talking about is your portfolio, not your GitHub. Your GitHub should have everything you're doing that you're comfortable putting up. So if you're doing something that's shady, don't put it up on your GitHub, but most stuff can go on GitHub.
Cool. So what is Mintbean's stack?
TypeScript full stack. Front end is React and Redux. We have hooks into Cloudinary for asset management. Backend is Express with and PostgreSQL on the database side. It's all a monorepo now. We shifted from not monorepo to monorepo. Very happy about that. CI/CD is on Buddy CI. We should have used Travis or Circle. And authentication is Passport.js. Shouldn't have told you guys that. That's like, you guys can hack us now. Okay, anyway, yeah.
Is writing, having a technical blog essential for the job hunt?
Nope.
It helps. It's not essential, but it helps, especially when it's a window into how you think. So if I'm on the fence and I see that you've written a bunch of technical articles, it's definitely a window into what your brain looks like.
Definitely.
How big is your team? Currently, we're 8.
6 women, 2 guys, including me. Through an accident, it just happened that way. We weren't actually trying. And now we need to hire for diversity. So we're looking for male developers going forward.
Yeah, we have the reverse problem.
That's
How
me.
important? Yeah, I think at one point it was like all female, and then Monarch.
Like 2 weeks ago, it was all female. All women. Female, I'm conflicted. Like, I feel like female is fine as an adjective, but not fine as a noun. That's me.
All right. How important is testing for a junior developer portfolio?
Not important. Like, unless you're going for a testing job and you want to show samples of your TDD, then yes. But I mean, if you want a testing job, if you want to be an engineer in test, or if you want to go into QA, your tests are everything. For software developers, testing is something that I can teach a good, sharp, smart person to do in a matter of maybe not hours, but maybe a day or 2.
Awesome. And the last question, do you do testing TDD at Mintbean? If so, what do you use?
Yeah, we use Jest and also Cypress. And we don't have like percentage, like a percentage bar of how many lines of code we have covered. Like, code coverage is not really something that we care too much about. But we do ask for at least basic tests. We're a startup and we're considering actually moving away from unit testing everything. Like, we're considering kind of slowing down unit testing. Are you hiring only from the community? And we usually invite people to get hired by us rather than putting up job applications. So what we do is, if you're really sharp and if you're bright, smart, you're in the community, you're probably going to be a culture fit and a skill fit. So that's how we hire. So we don't really put up any job postings anymore.
We keep a really good pulse on our community in terms of the great developers and who we want to bring into the company. So it's definitely nice to have.
Why are you slowing down on the testing side at this point? Because we're a startup and testing is, what we should be doing is hiring a QA to do testing on the Cypress side rather than on the unit testing side. So we should actually have a software engineer in test who's doing click-through testing and automating it. And that's going to be a much better way to do unit testing. We're slowing down unit testing. We're not slowing down testing. We still test our code, but there's only so much you can do as a small team, and there's only so much budget you have. Entire startups have been built without unit testing, so it's not necessary, but it does speed you up in the long run. It's just that we're in the short run cycle where we care about what's happening in the next quarter still. That's why we're considering slowing down unit testing. True, false.
Are you using React testing library with Cypress?
No. Is that a Cypress plugin?
No, React testing library can be used with a lot of stuff, but you can integrate it with Cypress and it makes writing the test like way more awesome, really? In my opinion.
Much really? More like a user interacts with things.
It makes the queries easier. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I can try to look up a link on like patterns to use.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds really great. I'll pass it to our team and I'll see if they like it. So that would be really cool. We're always looking for ways to speed up the testing. It's so painful. And Cypress makes it so great, but it's still painful. Cool. True, false, 70% or a lot of open roles are not posted online. Yes, true, because posting a job is painful and often bureaucratic. So yes, most jobs that are on the market have been not posted online at some point, but they were still looking. So yeah, a lot of them are not posted online.
Yeah, 100% true. Like it is actually really costly to post a job. And it requires a lot of time. Like when, finding the right talent, finding the right job board too, right? When you have job boards like LinkedIn and Indeed and you post up a job posting, they're very expensive. They're very expensive. And like you're paying a lot of money every day and you're competing with larger companies to make sure that your posting stays relevant and at the top and is attracting the right types of talent. And then you get this influx of resumes. And then you have to spend a lot of time reviewing those resumes. So yeah, companies definitely try. The first thing that they do is see if they can find somebody within their network from different communities. So yeah, keep an eye. Like this is why involvement in micro communities is actually so important.
I have a question about portfolios. It's easier if you're like doing stuff on the front or back end, but again, the ML's awkward logistics rear their ugly head. What do I do? I've never written any front or back end code. I don't know. I couldn't flask my way out of a paper bag. I've never written a single line of HTML. Like, help!
Wix.
Wix. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
And
actually
that actually goes for every other developer, whether you're a web developer or not, because I don't care a hoot how you built your portfolio site. I really don't care. Use something that's easy for you to use. I care more about the serious work that you've done, like actual deep work. Building a portfolio site is whatever. Anybody can do it, and I have no way of knowing what styles you used. And most of the portfolio sites are actually unimpressive, buggy, and developers are not designers, so most likely you're going to screw it up anyway. Might as well just use Wix and get it out of the way.
and
And
also to add
Wix should be giving me a percentage every time I say that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to that. Don't make it, I've seen this as well. Like if you make your portfolio building painful, every single time you want to add a portfolio piece to that site, you're going to feel less discouraged. This is why developers' portfolio sites are so outdated, because they just like they don't like want to spend an entire afternoon or entire weekend updating and pushing your portfolio. And you know, this is a lot of the people that actually end up interacting with your portfolio are non-technical. So the top of the funnel, like they're not developers themselves. So they're actually judging you for your design, even though you're not a designer. So why not just use something out of the box like Wix or Square or however many different platforms there are that let you do that?
Yeah, spend that week you spend building your portfolio, coming to a hackathon and doing something that you can put on the portfolio that's more impressive, like a CSS framework or a puzzle game, which is actually way more impressive than having your own self-hosted portfolio site.
QR code to portfolio site on resume.
It's who's gonna use the QR code? I think your conversion would be less than 1% of people who open your resume.
30-second, guys. I've never downloaded anyone's QR. I've looked at that. Like I can't keep count of how many resumes I've seen. I've never downloaded anyone's QR code. I don't want to give that kind of security risk to my device. So
Yep, true say.
I know we are at the 1.5 hour point. I wanted to check in because I know questions can just keep rolling in. Well, and actually we've answered all of the questions. So
yeah, I think we should wrap it up. It's been a day.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was so wonderful having you both here. And oh my gosh, we got to learn so much about resumes. I think it ended up being really helpful that Adam was asking questions and we got to see your thought process on how to narrow down what you would add to a resume for in the future when React isn't the language everyone is trying to hire for. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, it was an absolute pleasure, Brady and Sam. Just you guys have such a wonderful and warm community. This was awesome. The questions were great. So thanks for being such a great audience, everyone. And if you have any questions, LinkedIn, Twitter, I'm easy to find, and you can find Navi by just looking around me because she's not easy to find. Like her name is like the John Smith.
It's very hard. Like I run day-to-day operations of both our companies. And it's hard. Like I need some time to myself to recover, to fill up my cup. I'm not as active online because it's just like
Yeah, that too.
burnout is real. Like I have 10-hour
Totally.
days.
It doesn't help that you have you have like the John Smith of names from like Punjabi names. So every single Punjabi person is called Navi Man, male and female.
Yeah, it's a unisex name. There's like it doesn't identify between male and female. So there's
it's like the Alex of Punjabi names. So
like no, it's
hey.
like Don. It's worse.
Guys, this was great. If there are any questions, LinkedIn, Twitter, you can find us in the Discord channel, which if, that's one place to find us in the hackathons. We're very active on the Discord. Navi definitely is. I'm kind of active on Twitter. Well, actually, I'm very active on Twitter and LinkedIn. I prefer Twitter because it lets me answer in short bursts. So if you have any questions on Twitter, the AMA is not over. It's just migrating to Twitter. So you can ask me questions over there. Thanks, everyone. That's all I got.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.